Hello, it's me at Homestead Reptile, and I would love to talk to you guys about the valley garter snake, a very underrated pet snake. Garter snakes are so underrated, and now I'm starting to see their pickup in popularity. They're a beautiful snake. You can make fun, interesting habitats. You can make water features and add some live fish for them to fish. They're also a species of snake that does not need to eat rodents, and there's a lot of people who are squeamish, like I am, about feeding rodents. I don't want to have a ton of frozen rodents in my freezer. So I picked a snake species that doesn't necessarily need to eat rodents, or it's better for them not to eat rodents. Garter snakes are one of those. In the wild, garter snakes eat night crawlers, varieties of frogs and toads, tadpoles, salamanders, newts. They also will eat fish. So any small native fish that they can catch, they will eat. And as you see these guys eating these earthworms, you'll notice something they do differently from a lot of other snakes. They don't constrict their prey. They will never constrict their prey. Their jaws are really strong. They grab onto that earthworm and they bite it and they work it down their throat, and they just overpower it. That's the same way they'll do with a fish. That's the same way they'll do with a toad, a frog, a salamander, anything they catch. They overpower it and they eat it. They're also a species of snake that are rear-fanged venomous. So as studies have come out, they have found out that garter snakes are actually a rear-fanged venomous snake. They're a colubrid. They're rear-fanged venomous, but the good thing for people, their venom sucks. Unless you're an earthworm, a toad, or a fish, you're going to be fine. And in the wild, will they catch a mouse, an adult mouse? Not really. Will they, if they happen upon some really young mouse pups, will they take the opportunity to eat them? Yes, because they can overpower them and they will eat them. But that's not a common thing. A mouse diet is not what they thrive on in the wild. A mouse is just like a lucky calorie-dense item that they get to eat. Not earthworms, night crawlers, they love to eat them, but they're not as nutritious as some other food. That's why you see in that tray all that white powdery stuff. It's calcium and multivitamins. You shake it up on there, get stuck on the worms, and they eat them. Their care is really easy. As you notice, there are two in there. This is one of the very few species of snake that are social. So if you've ever wanted to keep more than one snake, you want to keep them together, you want to keep a social species of reptile and a social species of snake, you don't understand how rare that is. Most snakes are very solitary. This is a species of snake that loves having a buddy. They need to have a buddy. They feel safe when they have a buddy. They eat more when they have a buddy. They like to be in the same place as their buddy. So we're not anthropomorphizing these garter snakes. Studies have shown that garter snakes are a social species. They thrive around each other. They get distressed when they're not around another garter snake. They need to touch each other. They need to be around each other. And in studies, they have found that garter snakes do make best friends. So they'll have their best garter snake buddies, like about 2 or 3, sometimes 4, that they hang out with the most. They took those garter snakes and they removed them from their buddies for up to 2 years. They put them back together, and those garter snakes remembered their best buddies, and they hung out with them again. And sometimes if they made a new best buddy, they would take their new best buddy and bring it into their garter snake best buddy group. So they're social. It's a species that you can keep together, and that's a real pro to me. That's so awesome to have a species of snake that is honestly social. They're also very curious. So they're curious. Once you get them settled down and they're used to you holding them and touching them, they're a great snake to hold. They're not going to sit in your hand like a ball python and basically be boring and do nothing. They're going to wrap around your hand and crawl and do things, tongue flick, look around, do a little tripoding and see what's around it to eat or if there's any danger. One thing you do have to look out as they're younger, especially babies, they're likely to musk you, and it does not smell nice. It smells like gross dead fish with poop. not a nice smell, but these guys I've never been musked on. I've been musked on by babies, but these guys have never musked me. Um, they're pretty nice. They're a great species to hold. They're a lot of fun. They're really active. They also have keloid scales. So their scales aren't flat like a lot of other snakes. You'll see it with hognose too. Hognoses have keloid scales, but all garter snakes have keloid scales. It looks like a normal scale with a ridge down the middle. It's very interesting. It's really nice to feel. And there are quite a few morphs of garter snakes. So this is a natural occurring morph, the valley garter snake. Then a subspecies of this garter snake are the Florida blue. Then a subspecies of that one is the California, which is a beautiful red, blue, gorgeous garter snake. Then this one's not a subspecies, it's just a natural occurring color variety. So around the Cleveland and the Michigan area is a naturally occurring population of black melanistic garter snakes. Now, if you ever get the opportunity to see them in the wild, they are beautiful, solid black with a bit of a blue jaw, beautiful. And I believe it's 40% of the population are around that area are that dark colored garter snake, and they're that dark color to soak up the heat because they live in such a cold climate around the Cleveland and Canada area. That's cold, so it's a interesting study of a population going to a different color palette to survive in a new, a harsher condition than the rest of the population that lives in a slightly warmer climate. So this species can also go through brumation. They're not picky eaters. They're pigs. So you're never frightened, unlike if you have a ball python as a beginner snake, that it's going to go off food. These guys rarely ever go off food. They will, unless they're filled to the brink of busting, they will keep eating themselves. Not themselves. They'll eat themselves to death if you lift them. But they're extremely food motivated. And one interesting thing is, because they're so food motivated, they have those big eyes. You can do a tad bit of target training with them. So you can get them to understand a little stick with a red dot. You take that little stick with the red dot. You take their food bowl and you tap the food bowl with the red dot. Then they understand, oh, gather up. We're going to get some food. They'll figure it out really quickly. Mine have. They're extremely intelligent compared to a lot of other snakes, and I think that's the aspect of them being a very visual hunter, having to, they don't constrict, so they overpower their prey. They have a variety of different things they eat, and also the aspects of being social. So most species that are social are generally more intelligent than species that aren't social. But they're a lot of fun to keep. You can keep them in relatively smaller enclosures compared to, I'm thinking of another really popular species. I always go back to ball pythons because they're just really popular. Ball pythons need, like, an adult female gets about 5 to 6 feet. So I would assume they need probably like an 8-foot enclosure, because your snake's supposed to be able to stretch out completely. And I think an 8-foot might be on the smaller side. If you got a male, an 8-foot would be fine. But these guys don't need an 8-foot enclosure. The maximum size my female is probably going to get is 4 feet. She might get to that 5 feet, but I doubt it. She's probably going to get 4 feet. She'll just go into a nice big 40 with her little guy friend, and eventually I'll pick up some more garter snakes. But the cool thing also about garter snakes, because they're social, if you make sure that you get a group of one sex of either all females and all males, you can, if the care is similar, you can get different species of garter snake to hang out in their enclosures. That's if the care is the same and they're about the same size of garter snake. So you can take this species, their subspecies, a Florida blue. Say I have a group of just females. I have Valley, a Florida blue, and let's say I get a albino checkered, and I decide I want to get a California red-sided. If they're all females, they can all live there happily. They're perfectly fine. They're not going to fight with each other. They're not going to get irritated with each other. You just want to look out for not trying to create hybrids. Hybridization in garter snake populations do happen in the wild. A lot of these species live in the same habitat or very close to the same habitats, and sometimes they do mate with each other and they create hybrids. It does happen in the wild. There's nothing wrong with the hybrids, but some people frown upon that because they want to keep lines pure. But besides that, they're a great species. They're a lot of fun to care for. Their care is really easy. You want a basking spot about 90, cool spot about 75. They can burmate for a couple of months if you choose to put them through burmation to get them to breed. They have a, a large variety in their diet, which is fun. You don't have to feed rodents. They're great to handle. They're intelligent and they're social. I mean, they have the full package, and you can get so many different color varieties with garter snakes. It's not just your bland, brown garter snake. There's some really beauties out there. I have noticed an uptick in popularity in garter snakes, though. I remember when I was a little girl, you'd get like a garter snake, like an albino checkered, for about $50, maybe less. They've gone up to $100 to $200, and when I was looking for my pair of valley garter snakes, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna pay like maybe $100 or $50. I paid about $250 or $300 for my pair. It's been a while, but they've gone up so much in price. But they're an amazing species. I hope other people can really enjoy it and appreciate this species as an alternative if you're squirmish about feeding rodents.